Eric Engels, Sportsnet.ca, a good friend of this show, joining us now from Montreal. Eric, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. You know, it was a really strange 24 hours, with the Habs and obviously, Blake Shelton being named the sexiest man on the planet, and Sid, seeing you modeling shoes. First I figured you just wandered onto the set, but then I realized that they were probably looking for Kyle Bukauskas and you had to fill in.
Wow. You know what? I had a couple of smart-ass remarks for that. You win, Engels. You win.
He kind of complimented
Well
you.
played. Tip of the cap to Engels.
Good, good.
Engels won that set 6-love. All right, let's try and move on. But how did I look, though, Eric? Did you like the shoe? Did I look good?
You look pretty good. You were really selling the comfort of the shoes. I think the style of the shoes, sells itself. So I think you could get back on there again.
Getting critiqued by Eric Engels on my modeling was something I did not think was going to happen a month ago, but you never know what's going to happen on this show, and I appreciate it. You never know what's going to happen with the Montreal Canadiens right now, Eric. A week ago, we're hearing it's not that big a deal, should be soon. Jeff Molson recently pretty much said the same thing at the blood donation event over the weekend. He said, it's not that far away. And then Carey Price says, I'm not skating for a couple of days, and everyone freaks out. You don't pull punches with this team when you think it's warranted, and that's why we love you. Where do you stand on this story right now? Is the panic justified, or do people need to calm down?
Yeah, I think the panic is justified because of the history here, and obviously people in Montreal are going to be really concerned when they hear that he's taking a couple days off and he's not getting better. And when he was asked if he was any closer to joining his teammates on the ice for practice, he said he was no closer yesterday than he was a week ago when he started skating. So those aren't exactly good optics, no matter whether or not he's saying he'll be back soon and Marc Bergevin is saying he's back soon. I wrote in my column on Sportsnet.ca, the one good move that he made here is that he put the brakes on when he wasn't feeling better. I wish he would have done that in Minnesota when he, hurt himself during warm-up and decided to play the whole game. And a lot of people will say, yes, it's, their nature, they play hurt. But with this guy's history and with an $84 million contract that was just signed, he owes it to the team to tell them when he feels something in warm-up, whether he feels injured or not, and he just feels slightly hurt. And I think, in retrospect, they'll look back at this and say, this is a teaching moment, because you go back a couple of years where he missed 70 games. It started with him slipping on a puck in Edmonton and then proceeding to play the entire game in Edmonton after that warm-up injury. So something needs to be learned in this situation here.
Well, and I think that's the thing. That wasn't that long ago, and that's what people think of. They think of 2015, 2016, and think, is this not just the same thing all over again? Have the Habs not learned from that, or do you think they're handling it a tiny bit better?
No, I think they're definitely handling it better from a public relations standpoint. We had originally heard 2 years ago it was 6 to 8 weeks, and 6 to 8 weeks turned into months, and there was so much vagueness around what the situation was, we couldn't figure it out. And, I'd say this about the fans in Montreal, they're panicking, and with good reason, but I wouldn't be too concerned until we see Carey Price in a tracksuit with a player stick in his hands and a helmet that has a visor on it, skating around, because we saw way too much of that a couple of years ago before there was any real progress made, and it got to the end of the season and he ran out of racetrack to come back. But I think the Canadiens are handling it the best that they can. Marc Bergevin coming out yesterday is the best that they can do. Price addressing the situation himself is also a step in the right direction. They insist it's not related to the other injury. Nick Kypreos about a week ago on Hockey Night in Canada said that it's a suspected knee injury, so we can assume that it's not his right leg, but it might be his left leg. And either way, we know what the damage is for a player that plays that position, that the more they play on it, the more it becomes difficult to recover. So we'll see how he feels in a couple days. Like he said, if they keep saying soon, the Canadiens and Price do, I'm led to believe that it's days and weeks and certainly not months. So I guess we'll see how that develops, because we're left with guessing, and that's where, unfortunately, you wish there was more transparency, but I don't think we've come to expect to see anything more transparent from the Canadiens or anybody else in the National Hockey League on injuries.
Eric, I'm going to ask you a question, and I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer it, but I know there was some chatter internally in the Montreal hockey market, and this is an organization that when they got cold feet on PK, they did a difficult thing. They're not trading Carey Price here, are they?
No. And it's honestly, it's a question that makes me laugh when I hear when I hear open speculation about it on the radio. It certainly makes me laugh, especially from people that are paid in our industry to talk about it. You know, they signed Carey Price to a deal. You put yourself in Marc Bergevin's shoes going back to the summer. Does he want to be the guy that lets go of a premier asset like Carey Price? Does he want to be the guy that's known for trading that guy? You know, you're not going to win that trade. He's the best player in the deal, no matter who you get. And from the other end of it, you know, how are you going to convince another team to give you their best player and create a hole at a position just to fill one at another? And I think, you know, typically when you have one of the best players in the world, and certainly a guy who's the consensus best guy at the position, you know, when you trade him just to try and build a championship team down the line, chances are 6, 7 years, however long it takes, you're down the line, you're looking for the one piece that will put you over the edge, and it's probably the guy you gave up. So, you know, if they had won a couple championships, maybe this would be a discussion worth entertaining. They haven't gotten there yet. They believe that Carey Price has the ability to take them there, possibly on his own. And if there's one guy, I wouldn't bet against him. So, you know, you look at that $84 million contract. It's a big contract, 10.5 a year. It's a big number. At the end of the day, I think going a couple years into the future, it's probably going to be looked at as a discount. I think if he had hit the open market, it would have been closer to $12 million. So I think the Canadiens are stuck with him, and they're happy to be.
Based on how the Montreal Canadiens are playing right now, and based on how Lindgren's playing, and I know we worry with him about consistency, but he hasn't let up or let in more than 2 goals in any of his starts since Price went down. Do you think he'll be able to keep this up with the way the Habs are playing until Carey can come back?
Yeah, I do. You know, you go back to training camp, and you know, I was speaking to Marty Lapointe, who's the director of player personnel, who said there's no question this guy's an NHL goalie. Claude Julien saying there's no question he's an NHL goalie, and knowing the situation that Al Montoya was signed to basically warm the bench and watch Carey Price play hockey, I don't think they were going to put a 23-year-old kid in that position. So, you know, it's that delicate balance of making sure he plays games. But there's no question he's ready to be here. And I would go as far to say that he's better than 30 or 31 of 62 goalies in the NHL right now, at least. And that's not just based on the 5 or 6 games I've watched him play at this level. It's based on what I've known about him since he signed with the Canadiens at the end of the 2015-16 season, when they were looking for some more depth at the position, knowing what they had been through with Mike Condon and Ben Scrivens and not being able to replace Carey Price. And you know, now Antti Niemi is in, and he's in to watch Charlie Lindgren play, because unless he falters dramatically, I don't see really Niemi getting into the net. Also, you know, maybe there will be a back-to-back situation. There's one coming up next week against Dallas and Nashville, so possibly we'll see him for one of those games. Dallas makes a lot of sense given his history, but Charlie Lindgren has the puck in his hands, and he's going to run with it right now.
It's funny you bring that up, Eric, because conventional wisdom says you're bang on. You're not going to have Antti Niemi in there unless you need him to be there. But considering we don't know what the deal is with Price, considering we don't know how much hockey Lindgren's about to play, and he hasn't played a lot at this level, do you at all entertain the thought of putting Niemi in there tomorrow night against the worst team in hockey?
No, no chance. And it will be Lindgren who starts. And you don't entertain that thought because he's the hot hand. You know, whether he lost against Columbus or not a night ago, you know, he let in 1 goal in overtime, 1 goal in regulation, kept them in the game the whole way. They were down 1-0 going into the 3rd period. You know, this guy is cool as a cucumber. He's kind of borrowed a bit from Carey Price and being around him. And you know, he's got such a good attitude, and he battles so hard out there. He's given the team confidence after their worst start to a season in 76 years. They desperately needed some goaltending. We all know Carey Price wasn't even near the height of his abilities when he went down with this injury. So, you know, what he's provided the Canadiens and the way he's playing, there's just no reason to take the puck away from him. That said, you know, Antti Niemi, I think a lot of people are looking at his numbers. I thought Marc Bergevin made a really good point yesterday that, you know, he played a couple of games against Chicago, against the Lightning this year, and his numbers are obviously awful, but playing against some of the best teams in the league in a backup situation, a back-to-back situation. So I think, you know, let's see what develops here. I don't think they're going to turn to him unless they absolutely need to, and that could come soon, but don't expect to see it Thursday, and don't expect to see it Saturday against the Leafs.
Quickly, Eric, before we let you go, obviously the Price story takes up a lot of oxygen in the room. Who's the guy who's been playing a lot better the last few weeks, in your opinion, who we're just not talking about?
I think Jonathan Drouin has really found his game at center. You know, like Alex Galchenyuk is a guy that people in Montreal would point to because the bar was pretty low, and he's picked it up considerably since moving next to Drouin. But, you know, we're going to track the evolution of Drouin at center, you know, over the course of the year. And, you know, I spoke to him at the beginning of the week where he said that he feels so much more comfortable at the position now. You know, there was so much feeling out at the beginning, but you see him at both ends of the rink. He's so dynamic. And I think one thing that's been unheralded about this player, because we know what his hands are like, we know what his shot's like, we know what his playmaking's like, his speed is really something to behold. And I think he's just going to be a great player for the Canadiens for the years he's under contract and whatever happens beyond that. And as we move along into this season, I think it's clear that he's establishing himself as their #1 guy.
Well, Eric, thanks very much. We appreciate the time when everybody's freaking out and you're trying to keep them calm. We'll let you know next time Sid's modeling, just to give you a heads up.
Okay, great. I'll mark that on my calendar.
Yeah. That's code for don't tell me when I'm doing that. Thanks, Eric. Eric Engels, sportsnet.ca, one of our favorites here.